Okay, class. So I wanted to show you the size of my brush, and originally it was this size. So when I go into my brush presets in here, I can definitely bring down the size right here. But I also want to make sure that I also have some kind of shortcut involved while I am painting with the trees. Um, so I'm going to be using a shortcut to do different sizes for each of those mountain ranges. So what looks like the right bracket, so if I go, actually I'll show you how it's done. So this size is probably a good size for me, so I'm going to make sure that I made a new layer and I'm putting this all the way at the top, calling it trees. Okay. So I'm on this layer. I want to make sure I'm almost in the same color range as this maroon color or a little bit darker. And I want to start painting in my trees. If I want to increase the size, I'm going to click the right bracket, which increases the size, and then the left bracket decreases the size. Right? So this is what we want to achieve. So make this a little bit smaller by pressing the left bracket, like so. And start painting in my tree range. Okay. Might want to go a little smaller in some areas. You kind of get the idea. I want to do some on the other side as well. Okay. Might want to bunch them up a bit closer or farther apart. It's up to you. Make some a bit smaller. And then I recommend working in different layers just because it's a little bit easier for you to navigate your file. So now I'm going to go into this layer right here and select the color of this mountain range, put in a little bit more. I want to make some up top here. Okay. So it's kind of an interesting tool to use, the brush preset tool that you can create. You can create flames, you can create trees, you can create all different kinds of shapes that you can create into a brush. You can pretty much make anything into a brush, which is pretty unique. We're just starting with the trees for now, but we can do a whole video on how to customize your own shapes and brushes to any type of texture, size, or illustration or clip art of sorts. So I'm just using the left bracket to make things smaller. I don't want to put too many trees. I want to make sure I still see my hills, right? So I'll just go a little bit smaller in certain areas just to bring up some realism. Good. So I'll get another piece. There. And what's interesting here is that you can create a folder and you can name the folder, let's say, call this folder trees. And that way you get to organize your files a little bit more, like so. You can create a new folder as well and put mountains. So this way you have a little bit more file organization happening. Okay. So I'm going into my third layer right here. And let's say I don't want any trees on this layer right here. I can go into another color here and start populating certain areas. I'm going to go more here, certain areas, make some larger. But this is the basic idea. And I think I'm almost done. All I would need is a few areas, and as you can see, I went into some areas here which I should not have. So I want to make sure I'm within my mountain range. Okay. So I like where this is going. And then all I'm going to do is add a layer right here for the sun. So I'm going to close this folder out, close the mountain range out. I'm going to make a new layer and call it sun. I'm going to use the elliptical tool in the rectangle marquee menu, so elliptical tool here, like that. And again, I want to make sure I'm in the same color range, so I'm taking my paint bucket and I'm holding down Option to select the color of this sky right here. So if you want to go light, or you can go white, doesn't matter. So that's kind of where I see the sun coming in. This might be a different color than what I had imagined, so I might want to go maybe a little bit more on this end. So that's a little bit more in line with my color palette here. And this is how you create a mountainscape. And if you want, you can create more clouds behind it. It's up to you. I'm going to pretty much stick to this layout right here and call this done, but this is pretty much your assignment, is to create a landscape of sorts that has some kind of layering involved, where you go from light to dark, one color, you're eyedropping the colors and going from darkest to lightest, or you can go from brightest to most desaturated, and you're creating some kind of a brush preset. I would recommend you do a tree, just because it's one of the easiest to create, and also because we're just learning about this. But you also want to create a few layers. You can do 3 or 5, or you can create 7, it's up to you. We're creating some kind of smoking effect between our layers to add a little bit of realism. Those of you who might be thinking of going into animation, this is something you can definitely animate. Probably the misty clouds of sorts, and I believe Photoshop can allow you to animate certain areas, which we'll get into later. And then what we also want to do is add a sun or a moon, it's up to you. And then kind of call this a postcard of sorts, and I'll call it done. So I'm still playing around with my sun placement, but this is kind of where I see myself calling this approximately done. Just a minute. Yeah, I think I like that better. So I'll do that. And yeah, this is going to be your assignment, so have fun.